Well, hey there, YouTube. Happy Easter. It's Petey. We're here with this um, Ibanez Mikro Bass. We got this. I was looking for one of these for a long time. We were looking to get a good deal on one, and I also didn't want. I was either like she liked the blue, I liked the white. Just like a purple one came up, and I was like, man, I really don't want that Barney bass. I'm really like, hey kids, we're gonna slap a G. So we get the thing. I mean, it wasn't like that. It was like years of talking about it and looking and going on auction sites and looking on Craigslist, Goodwill, Market, Facebook Marketplace, Guitar Center used, eBay. I mean, just Sam Ash, you name it. I'm always looking for. And I don't want to get it from like the kid with the bong in his room, like this 15-year-old kid where his parents know that he's got a giant bong. I wanted to get it from somebody who was like older, where they hadn't gotten in there and I'm a modification, like changing everything on it. So yeah, it worked out good. The price was fair. We paid $1.25 for it. And I mean, you always see people saying, I paid 60 cents for it, and it's like, no, nowadays they're 200 used. The used price for these is $180 to $200 is the most common used price you're going to find for Ibanez Micro. And the reasoning behind that is, I don't know. That's just what they can get away with selling it used. So we paid $1.25. I've got some strings coming. I got the Ernie Ball regular short scale slinkies is what I got. I think they're 45 to 105. That's the string gauges that Ibanez ships the bass with. And honestly, like, I cleaned it up. We took a look at some things. We decided on the modifications we're going to do. But I got to tell you, the nut, the tuners, the bridge, everything about it it's not bad. Like, typically these starter instruments, you really need to replace stuff on them when you get them. This, I'll tell you what, if it needs strings, put some strings on it. And there's all this about like flat wounds on this, or tape. People get goofy with what they put on here. I've been down that tape wound road, and it's great on your fingers, but I'll tell you, you don't make contact with you don't ground the bass through holding the strings. Now, maybe it wouldn't be so bad on this, but if you're playing the instrument closer to, like, if you play with a pick and you're playing up, and I know people, well, sorry, Gopti plays with a pick, and I'm not going to get on her about that. That's how she learned. So right here is a long way from down there, meaning the only way you stop it from humming is to be making contact with this. So my idea with it is, I like the zing, I like the fret noise, string noise. I mean, this is just two people making music, me and her. So any little thing we can add on is good, even if it's fret noise, string noise. So yeah, Slinky, Ernie Ball, $20, 105 to 45 Slinkies. But the other thing that we're doing, we just did this right now. We removed the potentiometers and we rewired everything. Now, excuse me. I'm sorry about that. Ibanez, when they make this, um, the bean counters at Ibanez will look at this design and they'll go, whoa, 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 what do you got going on here? There's 3 of these knobs, but one of them is different. Oh yeah, that different knob costs a little more, but it enables us to wire it up in a certain way that's really kind of nice. Well, could you wire it up a different way if you got rid of that fancy knob and just used all 3 of the same type of knobs? Pots? Oh yeah, we could. But it's really not as conducive and not as good. Well, this is a beginner bass, blah, 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 blah. Cut it. They're going to use all 3 of the controls are going to be the same part. And then you have 2 volume controls and a tone, which when you touch one of the volume controls, it massively changes the sound of the bass. So now you have a volume control that not only is it controlling the volume, it's tone shaping, but only really at the end of the throw, meaning there's a 300 degrees of turn on the potentiometer. It's only in the last 0.5 degree of turn that tone shaping thing happens. So for somebody like my wife, for me to be like, hey, you need to take knob number 2 and back it off, just crack it down, throttle it open and then crack it down so you have slightly less bridge pickup and more neck pickup, which gives you more bass. And what is this instrument? It's not a treble. So the modification, like I said, if you're like me and you don't think that you can do a better job than Ibanez, you don't want to spend a bunch of money. Like if you're getting a used micro that you pay $100 for it, pay $150 maybe. Well, you could throw some strings on it, and then you can get yourself a 500K linear, 500K B dual potentiometer, dual gain potentiometer. And this is your normal potentiometer here. It has 3 connections on it. See that? There's 3 little guys down there on the business end. Well, the dual gang has 6. So the wiring diagram, if you look up Ibanez Mikro Bass modification, you will find this image here. And if you tear, like basically what you got to do, you loosen the strings or remove them. Loosen them up real good. Then you unscrew these 4 screws. You want to be able to pull your the wires from this pickup out. You need to determine what 2 wires are for this pickup and what 2 wires are for this pickup. And at that point you can do a test. And for this test you need a Phillips screwdriver and a multimeter. And you can determine the polarity of the wiring. Okay, and you think, well, why would I want to determine the polarity of the wiring? Well, on this micro bass, one of the pickups had a red wire that was the hot side of the equation, the positive. The other had a red wire that was the ground, was the negative. Thanks, Ibanez. So, and what you do, you connect your multimeter, you set it on voltage, and you connect it to the pickups in correct polarity, meaning the red goes to the red and the black goes to whatever color you're pairing it with. Because I found in my bass, in the bridge, there was a yellow wire and a red wire. In the neck, there was a white wire and a red wire. And what were they, Gomti? In the
In the bridge, the yellow was positive and the red was ground. But
in the bridge,
the yellow was
it
positive
was reverse polarity.
and the red was ground. But in the neck, the white was negative and the red was positive.
In the neck, the red wire is positive. In the bridge, the red wire is negative. And like you'll see, if they wired it properly, you'll see where one pickup for the grounding, there's the not red wire. The other pickup, it's the red wire going right to the ground. So basically, looking at that, it threw me off, and that's why I loosened up my screws and pulled the wire so I could yank on it and physically see these are the two wires that are connected to the bridge pickup, and determine the polarity. And once you know what they are, then you just follow the other diagram. It's not very confusing, but I'm going to go over some things in the diagram that are worth noting. So this view here is all like you're looking at the back of the guitar, except for this. This view is exactly what they're looking at, what they're showing you, with this pot sticking out sideways, and this is the top view of those 6 connectors. So on pin 1, I would pin this out going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so pin 1 we jump across, but it also comes to ground, and then that ground comes over and grounds itself out on the back of the tone potentiometer. So we got this whoop-de-doo here, that whoop-de-doo there. You install this one here, run this over to the ground, add another wire to go to the tone. And then over here we see this little wire, this dually, which is going to the output of the tone control. So you got that double wire there. And then here's your ground wire from the bridge. You got some grounding going on here. But basically, like I said, Ibanez doesn't want to purchase this component. So they wire it where you have this pot controls the volume of this pickup. The second pot, which looks just like this one, controls the volume of this, and then the tone. So the downside of that is, like I said, when you change either volume control of the stock micro, it either gets bassier or gets treblier. And it's a volume control, it's not a tone control. And then you have a tone control, so it's like, I'd rather have a master volume, a blend, to select which pickup you're going to. Like if you turn it all the way up, it goes to the top pickup. If you turn it down, it goes to the bottom pickup. It makes sense. And then the tone. And they give you I think it's a .047 tone cap. I've got like orange drops here. I don't know what the voltage rating of this pickup is. I think we're not going to mess with it. I kind of liked. Did you like the? It seemed like it was the tone. The .047 tone capacitor on the Ibanez Mikro was just fine. So the long and the short of it is, that's the mod I recommend. You can find that diagram. It's pretty easy to follow. And the process that you'll want to do is you loosen the strings, and then you pull the knobs off and take the hardware off so the pots drop down. And then you just unsolder everything. Even there's some little pieces of shielded wiring. When I rewired it, they had these 2 wires coming off the jack, Now I've got a single shielded wire, which is just a better way to do it. As far as interference and hum goes, this should maybe make it a little quieter. It's the way I always like to do it. You want to use pen and paper and take notes. I would photograph the cavity before you do anything. If you want to write it down where all the wires went, stock, that makes you feel more comfortable. But really, you just go in there and tear everything out, including the capacitor. The tone capacitor needs to be moved over one lug from the stock wiring diagram to this modification that I show you. And there's people that have gotten these bases from the factory and opened them up and found mistakes in the wiring. So the idea of rewiring it, for me, I've rewired instruments many times and it's not anything really like daunting. Like, I know when I'm done that it's going to work, and I've never had it where we went into the control cavity of a guitar and then went to do the test and something's not right. It's always just worked. This is a helpful thing, is taking a piece of cardboard and sketching it out, and then you mark where the potentiometers go on the base, and I use the pointy awl. I got this really nice awl tool, AWL, and you run it through, and then you can sit the potentiometers in there and hold them nice for you as you solder everything up. So that's probably going to be it as far as this micro bass goes. I'm not going to, like, we're using, I got this is the strap lock I'm using, this rubber ring. It's a light bass. My wife is playing it in our duo, and I noticed right away the first night we played, she sounded fantastic. And it's because this is such an easy playing instrument. It's a small scale. I mean, we've got short scale basses here. The last one I bought for her was it was an Asmuse. It's a Chinese short scale headless bass that needed a lot. It needed a shim in the neck pocket, and it's not a comfortable playing bass. It's real wide at the bottom of the neck, and it just requires a lot of. It's a cool bass. And it's not a junker. That's actually a really nice bass for the price. But I got to tell you, it just wasn't feasible. It's not for someone with small hands. And to make a little headless bass, I don't know why you would. I don't know. So yeah, switching over from this thing that I'm thinking it's impeding her playing. The first night she played on the micro was like, holy cow, did she sound great. Second night she sounded even better. Now these are dead strings, and this modification should actually, I don't know if it's going to sound any better. We'll see about that. I mean, if you think about the math of it, it's kind of, it's about the same thing, really. So this modification doesn't give you better sound. It gives you better control. Okay? And shame on Ibanez for releasing these basses with this 2 volumes and a tone. That's the worst. If you've ever had a bass with 2 volumes and a tone, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's not good, because if you're in a professional thing, the sound man is going to flip out at you if every time you're touching your volume knobs, it's massively changing the amount of bass frequencies coming out of the PA. You can't do that. So in other words, the way that this instrument is set up stock, the volume controls are useless. They're useless. Because if you touch anything, it massively changes the amount of low end. So at this juncture, It's a no-brainer mod that like everybody's doing. Like if you look at the threads where people talk about this, everybody's doing this mod. And the reason behind that is that it's a terrible way that it's wired from the factory, and this mod just makes way more sense. Um, that being said, we did get some of this type of knob. They're just black aluminum knurled. There's two push-on knobs, and then there's one that has a set screw.
That I have over here, don't worry about it.
And the thing that you want to make sure, like if you're gonna order the potentiometer, you should have you need to get a caliper is what I like to use, or a ruler, and take one of the potentiometers out of the guitar and then measure the thread length and measure the shaft and the base. Measure everything you can. I mean, 15, 16 millimeter alpha pot. I'll just do it since I know you guys probably are sick of hearing me talking, but I'm just going to go ahead. The threading it's about 1 full centimeter of threading. The shaft sticking off the top is like maybe 8 millimeters. And from the bottom of the base up to where the actual threading starts is about one centimeter. And the reason I'm saying that is not all pots are equal. If it's the real short, where the threading is short, you won't be able to screw this on. So I've bought a bunch of these base equalizer harnesses, and they have that blend pot comes stock with that, and I usually will use that in an amplifier that I made. So I had these stock pots here. Thank goodness I had it, because a regular dual gang potentiometer might not have that amount of thread that you need to go all the way through the wood of the guitar. Now you could take a 4-center bit and remove some of the wood to make it thinner there. I would not recommend doing that. Always get the right part before you modify the bass. But that's something to keep in mind, is getting the correct part if you're going to do the modification. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I forgot. If you got any questions, you should be able to, rather than just ask me and then have me spend an hour making a video that you never respond to, just go on the forum, Google the question, and do your research yourself, because the information you're looking for is out there. There's a lot of information about the micro bass because they're really good product. You know, typically when they make these starter instruments, you know, they skimp on the hardware, which Ibanez didn't do on the micro. And that's, I mean, you've played it what, twice?
Yeah.
And I think the second time you played it, I thought you did even better. I thought it was just phenomenal. You know, there was stuff that you had a hard time because of the physical riff of what it is on that guitar, and it's hard to play, and you were able to pull it off smoothly with the micro. So I'm super stoked about this bass, and I wanted to share this easy and real sensical modification. I'm not the guy that immediately assumes they didn't know what they were doing when they made it from the factory, but this is a case where they did. They did screw the pooch. They never should have done the wiring like this, but I understand why they did. I mean, it should make sense to you. Cost-cutting measure and ends up with a useless bad design. All right, you guys. Thank you for joining me on this one. Happy Easter. Hug your pets and peace.